Every policeman knows when he joins the force that there are certain inherent risks that come with the territory. Ask any cop, he'll tell you. If you can't stand the heat, you better stay out of the kitchen.
You're gonna be a bad mother. There's a new guy in town. His name's Robocop.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
Nice shooting, son. What's your name? Murphy.
Robocop is a 1987 American science fiction action film directed by Paul Verhoeven and written by Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner. The film stars Peter Weller, Nancy Allen, Daniel O'Harely, Ronnie Cox, Kurtwood Smith and Miguel Ferrer. Robocop was filmed primarily on location in Dallas, with additional filming in Las Colinas and Pittsburgh.
We get the best of both worlds. The fastest reflexes modern technology has to offer, onboard computer-assisted memory, and a lifetime of on-the-street law enforcement programming. It is my great pleasure to present to you Robocop.
This week, The Making Of introduces you to the future of law enforcement. Part man, part machine. Robocop. The film is set in the near future, where the crime rate in the country has risen to alarming proportions. One of the hardest hit cities is Old Detroit, where a recent rash of cop killings has the police department searching for a solution to the problem. One of the newest officers in Old Detroit is Murphy, played by Peter Weller.
In comes a man named John Murphy, unsuspecting, good cop, street cop, wife, kid, easygoing guy who wants to support mankind, humanity, do the right thing. He's not a tough guy, he's very easygoing. Becomes the unwitting subject of this experiment. Is turned into a robot. Becomes a killing machine. But through a series of circumstances and events, he begins to have a taste of what was once his humanity, and it confuses him. And curiously enough, he starts off on a road of not only vengeance, but a road on rediscovering what it was to be human.
Hello, hi, hey, come on guys. There's nothing there, just give me a little bit more there.
For director Paul Verhoeven, Robocop marks not only his first American feature, but also his initial plunge into the special demands of science fiction.
For the slates. Ready? Action! Yeah, jammed is actually the same moment, but we can intercut it, yeah?
I think that he wanted to make the movie, and he did make the movie, for American sensibilities, not for European sensibilities. Still, the obliqueness of it and some of the humor and the wit and the social milieu that the jackpot of little goodies that he throws in is from Europe. So it's tremendously unique.
When I got I think you know that when I got the script for the first time and I saw the title and I read Robocop and then, of course, saw that it was science fiction stuff, and I didn't want to deal with science fiction stuff. I was really, at that moment, living in Europe. I just wanted to do films about realistic elements, yeah? I wanted to do films about the real life. And so, after a couple of months later, I think they still hadn't found a director, I got a phone call from somebody at Orion asking me if I had read it, and I said, no, I didn't read it. She said, well, you should certainly read it. And then, with a lot of non-very sympathetic feelings, I started to read it, and I was not really completely convinced. It's not like seeing the heavens open or something like that, but when I put it down again, when I read it, it stayed in my mind, and it slowly started to, because what I saw was the possibility to do this kind of science fiction action picture, but that underneath the whole story there was something about the human mind or the human soul.
I personally think that this is the best thing Nancy Allen ever did. I personally think that this is the most vulnerable and charming and and delightful and moving and touching that I've ever seen her be.
I wasn't sure what you needed.
Nancy Allen plays Ann Lewis, Murphy's former partner, and later the cyborg's one true friend. Allen, best known for her roles in Dress to Kill and Blowout, found a new challenge in Robocop.
The thing that was really, I mean, all throughout the movie, there's only, Peter and I only have a few scenes in the beginning together as partners, and all the rest of the time I'm playing with the robot, and I was very nervous about how am I going to relate to this creature, you know, and Peter's such a wonderful actor. I mean, there was just, you know, sometimes I'd look at him and is there anyone there? So I think because of how good he is at his job, it made it really easy for me.
Helping Weller make the character of Robocop come to life was the Robocop suit. The costume was designed and created by special effects makeup genius Rob Bottin, whose credits include The Howling and The Thing. Working with a team of 20 assistants, Bottin spent 10 months developing the Robocop suit and 6 months building it. Dennis Pavlik, a member of the team that was responsible for working with the Robocop suit, discusses its creation.
It came from a lot of months of talking to the director, Paul Verhoeven, and them going over what they wanted, sketches, building it out of clay, changing it, a lot of changing. And they finally, you know, agreed on one design. This is what you see.
It took 10 hours to get into it the first time. 10 hours. And then it took 6, and then we got it down to 4, and finally this amazing crew I had and support team, the Robo team, we got it down to a smooth hour and a half every day. It was 128 degrees inside the thing. It was 105 degrees outside. I'm not saying Dallas, Texas, but it was about 128 degrees inside it. I would lose about 3 pounds of water weight a day.
For the robotic situations in the film, you have really to find out how a robotic element in a film can look convincing, that it doesn't look ridiculous or absurd, or you don't accept it at all, or it's an element that is completely out of style with the rest of the picture. So these are all things that are really new, I suppose. You're not talking about another galaxy or something like this. You are talking about our civilization, and you're bringing in robotic elements, and you have to make them convincing to your audience. Sometimes it's really difficult to get these things on paper, yeah? You really have to know the writer and to talk with him and find out what is the common opinion behind what is written in the lines.
It distinguished itself from other robot movies because it's about a guy who becomes a machine. It's a very violent movie. It's sort of a comedy, I think. I mean, if you like a good robot picture, this might be it.
Ed 209, a cannon-fisted enforcement droid, was going to be the answer to old Detroit's crime problem. But when Ed goes haywire, Robocop gets the go-ahead. However, Ed 209 is intent upon reclaiming the title of the future of law enforcement. Producer John Davison hired some of the finest special effects artists in the business to create authenticity within the robots.
Action!
One of the pivotal scenes in Robocop was shot in this deserted Dallas, Texas warehouse. Kurtwood Smith portrays Clarence Boddicker, the ruthless leader of the gang that killed Murphy. While Boddicker and his associates are making a drug deal, they are interrupted by Robocop, now seeking revenge upon his executioners.
I've got protection! You have the right to assert it! Action will be everybody shooting, yes? So there will be... And then I do this.
The firepower, stunts, and special effects in Robocop are truly awesome. Here, director Verhoeven consults with special effects man Dale Martin.
On action, our man's going to come in on action. You're going to see the whole wall get machine gunned and bagged with bullet hits. The glass will pop, the lights and all that. As he moves forward, we'll see some hits of cement, the ground, and then we'll throw some sparks off his body.
So it will be standing like this.
While Martin and his team are preparing the special effects, each scene is being carefully planned out. Because some of the action that will be taking place is considered dangerous, a stunt double for Peter Weller is used. Coordinating a film sequence such as this can be extremely difficult for all involved.
It was extraordinarily taxing physically. Not only that, for the stuntmen, all those guys are 21 stuntmen. And the time, all of those things at once, while I'm in the suit shooting a gun and they're shooting and 4 cameras are working and the heat.
Also feeling the heat were the veteran stuntmen involved in the scene. It was Gary Combs' responsibility as stunt coordinator to create the action that was to unfold.
Well, you have this sequence here, which is a big shootout. The robot comes in the building, kills all the baddies in the building, so that's not super dangerous. It's just, it requires a number of stunt people, a lot of bullet hits, a lot of blood bags and things like that, which those will all mainly put on stunt people. A couple little high falls, guys on air rams sailing through the air and through glass, being jerked back through barrels and things like that on an air ratchet. You know, the robot chute sure gets a hold of you. He's superhuman strength. He shoots a lot of firepower, so they want to see the impact of it.
Explosive charges called squibs are placed by the special effects crew. These squibs, when detonated, simulate bullet hits. Special protective vests are used when placing squibs on actors. Here, special effects employ a jerk vest, a special harness worn by the actor with a hook protruding in the back. A wire is attached, and when the squibs explode, the wire is jerked, and the actor will be pulled backwards, giving the effect of being blown away.
Okay, ready? Action! Cut it!
In this case, the film turns out to be much more complicated than you could foresee on paper. There are so many special effects that have never been done, that you have to find out during shooting, and there's nobody who can really help you immediately because you have to find it out all together. I think it's always when you do something new and you try to combine several elements that have never been used together, and you put them together suddenly and you find out that they don't work together, or they work together but you have to find out how.
Another element to be constructed was the design of Robo's gun. Verhoeven called upon Randy Moore to create the robot's artillery.
Coming up with something that's totally different visually that still works. You know, you can make all sorts of great modifications to a gun that looks very visually interesting and have something that doesn't work. So the object is to make it visually interesting and to make it also function.
Portraying Bob Morton, the creator of Robocop, is Miguel Ferrer, a man whose lust for power creates his own downfall.
He's like the most ruthless, ambitious agent who ever sat behind a desk at William Morris. That's how I equate it, you know. The writer calls him a yuppie with teeth. So, just a very ambitious, young, sort of up-and-coming, bright guy.
Ferrer, whose credits include Flashpoint and Star Trek III, was looking forward to working for his new director.
Real joy for me, I mean, it was working with Paul Verhoeven, you know, truly. He's just unbelievable. I'm such a fan of his movies like everybody else.
He's a quick and inventive and unsettled guy. And that took getting used to, but once I got used to that, which really didn't take a large adjustment because I'm sort of unsettled and restless. And once I got used to that, we got used to each other, that's where we were going to begin, then it was phenomenal.
Phenomenal is also a good word for the stunts in Robocop. Here, Verhoeven and Gary Combs plan a sequence that will find Clarence Boddicker crashing through a roof and onto the solid floor below.
Yeah, now we have to see what's coming down when he's going through the roof.
When the stunt is finished being choreographed, placement of cameras are selected, focused, and locked into position.
Okay,
The stunt team prepares by placing several mattresses on the area where Boddicker will land. Kurtwood Smith's stunt double rehearses his movements in this difficult scene. Finally, with cast and crew ready, film can be rolled.
Fine.
And action!
Need to beef it up.
Having completed this hazardous act, the stuntman is examined for any injuries. With no harm to account for, it's time to be ushered on to the next location for yet more grueling activity. As the action continues, Kirkwood Smith is brought in for close-ups. Here, Robo encounters his assailant and prepares to hurl him through a plate of glass.
Right. And action! Bomb, and go immediately.
Again, there is no margin for error when executing a hazardous stunt such as this.
Right.
Safety is always of the highest priority, and the stunt coordinator must make sure the act is performed correctly.
You become a technical advisor in certain ways. You become a safety advisor in a lot of ways, you know, because if somebody on the crew gets hurt while you're doing a stunt, it's going to become your responsibility, or they're going to come to me first and say, you know, how come that happened? Why'd the car run over the guy or whatever? So, I mean, in a lot of respects, you became involved in the safety factors of things for the whole crew, not just the stunt people.
And action! And go.
The success of any stunt sequence can be best measured when seen in the final action-packed version of the film.
My name is Robert Morton. I'm the developer of the Robocop program for OCP, and you're going to be meeting Robo in a minute. He is the most technologically advanced law enforcement product to date. I'd like you to meet him now. Now, you're only going to be able to ask him a couple of questions, okay? Not take up too much time, and I'll be right here. Robo, come on in. These men are going to talk to you for a minute, okay?
Robo, do you know why you were created?
I stop crime.
I see. Robo, I understand you have 3 prime directives. Can you tell me what they are?
Serve the public trust. Uphold the law. Protect the innocent.
Anything you'd like to add to this?
I am the future of law enforcement.
That says it all, doesn't it? Thank you, Robo. It was a good job.
Thank you.
What did I tell you? Be looking for him.
This picture takes place in old Detroit in the future. It's the story of a cop named Murphy who in the course of his duties gets killed. And he is rebuilt as a cyborg, part man, part machine, and he is now programmed as the future of law enforcement.
I was reading a lot of comic books for a studio. They came to me one day and said, Ed, read these comic books. We want to know what you think of comic books. And I had never really read comic books, particularly of this sort, which were of these sort of modern, neurotic superhero. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Machine Man, all these things that a guy named Stan Lee over at Marvel created. It was the superhero who had sort of trouble being a superhero. Even though he had all these powers, there was like something going on inside. So he was sort of like a superhero with a headache.
Robocop has been looking for me and my boys because we're the ones that shot him up at the beginning. And as the film has gone along, he's discovered who we are, so he's come looking for us. And he happens to find us here. And then is in the process of arresting me, and then, since I won't give up and go along peacefully, he starts throwing me through various windows of offices in the warehouse here while he's reading me my rights.
Okay, next shot. Thank you very much. Thank you. Just a little bit blood, that's natural, I suppose, or is it just fake blood? Huh?
That's what we're in the process of doing, and that's what all this business comes from. So when they take me to the police station later, you know, I look something like this.
Okay, ready? Action! Go!
I think what my influence in the style has much more to do with the way I shoot it, the editing, and the way I work with the actors, which is perhaps a little bit different from a normal action picture, because I I spent, I think, much more time with the actors than you would normally do for an action picture.
Well, I play Bob Morton, who is a sort of up-and-coming executive for this company, OCP. The company itself is kind of scary. It's like, we are Beatrice, you know? We own the police, we own the hospital. It's great. And he's like the most ruthless, ambitious agent who ever sat behind a desk at William Morris. That's how I equate it, you know? The writer calls him a yuppie with teeth. So
no matter how sophisticated criminal technology gets, no matter how sophisticated our society gets, no matter how futuristic it becomes, there's still going to be the beat cop.
Hey, have you thought it all over? Why not make me an offer? Go!
The robot had a gun that fired a three-shot burst. So when the bad guys got shot, you not only had one bullet hole, but you had three. So you had a large hole, a large cavity, and a lot of blood. And these are extra large blood bags, but in a lot of the sequences, that's how much blood we'd use with 3 or 4 of the bullet hits to get the blood gushing and spurting off the chest cavity and the body cavities of a lot of the shots.
Ready? Action!
Right here. Well, I could hardly feel the impact. The brass of your last round hit me right on the chest. Yeah. I figured if you wanted to take a shot at me after I did this to you, I couldn't blame you.
Actually, the rigging was really superb. I hardly felt the impact of this.
Now, when those things go off, what do you feel?
Feels like, that's it. We're doing a super job.
Yeah.
One of my earliest recollections of robots is sitting in front of a television set when I was 4 years old watching a local Philadelphia TV show called Mr. Rivets, and it was a man in a cardboard box painted silver. Now hopefully we've done a little better than that. We have one of the all-star teams of special effects. We have Phil Tippett, Academy Award winner, doing all the stop-motion animation on the robot Ed 209, this large armored enforcement robot, and he becomes Robocop's nemesis during the course of the film. And I think Phil Tippett, with Ed 209, has really also done a superb robot.
Stop motion animation is a frame-by-frame process where we move the stop motion model, the arms, the legs, the feet, the tail, the eyes, the back, very infinitesimal amounts, and then we take one frame of film and repeat that process again. Take one frame of film, repeat the process, take one frame of film.
We have Pete Coran, who did all the roto effects in the Star Wars pictures. He's doing all our RoboVision shots, all the POVs of the robots. We have Rocco Joffrey, is probably the finest young matte artist in the United States, doing all our matte paintings. But I think Rob Bottin here has really designed and created one of the most interesting, most spectacular robots I've ever seen on film. Well, today we're shooting the scene where Murphy gets killed by the gang. First they blow off his hand, and then they blow off his arm, then they blow off his head. It's, Rob Bottin has created all these prosthetics, and they're quite startling. We were going to use Peter Weller to blow his head off, but we decided we may need some looping later on, so Rob Bottin has created a wonderful prosthetic, a puppet of Peter Weller, which looks exactly like him.
Go!
And it sits up and it looks around and it gets frightened and screams, and the whole back of the head blows off. Quite traumatic.
Okay, let's get out of here.
The future of law enforcement. Robocop.
Action!
Old Detroit has a cancer. The cancer is crime.
Getting to talk with you here on location with Robocop in Dallas, beautiful downtown Dallas. Let's just get right into it. First of all, we hear the shots in the background.
Guns going off.
What is the storyline of Robocop?
The plot is about, it's set nebulously in the future, and it's about a good Joe, an average guy, a good policeman who is taken by the powers that be in corporate America, put in a lethal situation where he almost loses his life. He's taken away. He's transformed into a cyborg, a cyberneticized human being, a walking computer, a killing machine. And partway through the movie, through a series of events, he discovers that there's something inside of him, a soul, if you will, a humanity that he doesn't realize as a robot is there, but he has glimmers of it, and then he begins on this search to find out who he was. And it's an action adventure yarn, and it's a thrilling tale of vengeance and good guys and bad guys, but at the core of it is the beautiful part of it, which is why I did it, and I think why Paul Verhoeven's doing it too. It's a story not unlike Beauty and the Beast. It's about a wonderful person trapped in the body of, or the accoutrements of, a beast. And it's about humanity trying to struggle through. It's about the goodness of people trying to transcend the evils of the computer, if you will. That's what it's about to me, anyway. And it's a gas. It's a little bit like The Wizard of Oz, too, you know? It's like if I only had a heart.
When this role was offered to you, did you just right away say, oh, yeah?
I did right away. Now, when I heard the title, I went Robocop. Well, and then Paul Verhoeven's name was connected to it. And truth be told, about a year and a half ago, I wrote down on a list of objectives to do in the future 5 directors that I really wanted to work with. And he was number 3. I was truly just taken and stunned by his work. And so when I heard his name connected with it, I said, you know, shouldn't be fooled here by this title, although the title sounds action-like and so forth. There's something else to this, because if Paul Verhoeven is doing it, you can bet there's some story about humanity in it. And sure enough, I read it, and there was. And I walked right in and told him, look, I love your work, and I want to do this thing. And so after some politics, here we are.
You offered your services before they came to you?
I just went in and put my cards right on the table. I said, I didn't lay back and say, you know, maybe or maybe not, you know, De Laurentiis is calling, or, you know, whatever the hoopla, you know, that we all do as film actors and film stars do. But no, I just went right in and said, look, here's what I want to do. I want to do this movie, and I want to do it with you. He was a little sort of stunned by that, you know, but push came to shove, and here we are doing this film.
And now that you're working with him, is it what you thought it would be?
It's way beyond what I thought it would be. It's completely different than what I thought it would be. Paul Verhoeven is he is a driven and compelling megalomaniac, if you will, and I enjoy every minute being with him. He is the most on the set, inventive and experimental and exciting guy I've ever made a movie with to date. And he's very demanding. And I'm in this suit, which you can't see due to the politics of Orion Studios, but it's a beautiful suit, and you will see it, and it's an incredible piece of art, if you will, to make work. But we make it work, and it's gorgeous, and it was designed by Rob Bottin, who's one of the finer special effects makeup artists in the world. And so Paul's demands on me and demands on the film, you know, were at first like, wait a minute, you know, let's take a break, you know, let's discuss this. But he wanted to go into 5th gear right away, and bless his heart, I just went into 5th gear with him. I said, I love this guy, so I'm going to trust anything he tells me to do, and I love it. I love being a putty in his hands, so to speak.
We, of course, will not have film clips on what the Robocop looks like until the movie comes out in July. But I'll save this part of it. Can you give me any sort of description of the suit and what it was like for you as an actor?
Yeah, well, I prepared for it for 5 months. The suit, the body cast, I started with those 5 months prior to the beginning of the film. I had to go to Los Angeles with Rob and have every piece of my body perfectly molded and sit like in tubs of whatever they make, those broken arm casts, plaster, without moving, you know, for 40 minutes just a hand, and then another 40 minutes just an arm, and then one with the entire body, and then a knee and a foot. And so when this suit came out, what it is, it's a rubber undersuit of ribbing and very futuristic looking, almost black skin. And then it's this oversuit that looks like titanium, really. It looks like this very modern space-like metal. It's green and blue, and it's sort of, it's opalesque. And it has great sort of muscular structure to it, and yet it's mammoth. The head is very sleek. It's a little bit pointed in front. It has a 2-inch black visor. I mean, like a strip of sunglass through it. It comes down to under my nose. It has black under the chin. It's like I'm completely entombed in it. But the musculature of it is very Greco-Roman. It's very sleek. And the movement in it is very controlled and robotic and accentuated. And it also can be fast. And I have a gun that's bigger than a house. It takes 4 or 5 guys. Now it's a gun that's like, I don't know where they got this gun, but I'm told there's only 3 of them in the world in civilian use. So we had to go through the Department of Firearms, Federal Department of Firearms, to get permission to use this thing. It's a pistol that fires automatically. It comes magically out of my leg. My leg just opens up and this gun comes out. It breathes fire like a dragon. And, you know, it's fun being Robo. Robo is magical. This whole thing has been very unique and magical to me. It's been the most demanding, arduous, and yet satisfying and thrilling thing I've ever been involved with.
As far as comfort when you're in the suit, is it heavy? Is it hot? Is it scratcy? What is it like?
All of those.
All of the
It's
above.
all of those very things. It's heavy and it's hot and it's scratchy. If it was a day like it was 106 degrees, like it was this August, and we were shooting outside, I end up in the day with maybe 2.5 pounds of water weight that I've sweat off into the rubber suit. Just rubber from head to toe. And it's pliable, but it's rubber nonetheless. It's heavy. It's about 40 pounds. 40 pounds doesn't sound like much, but if you carry 40 pounds around all day and you are falling downstairs or having 45 people with Uzi machine guns shoot at you about this far away, throwing yourself over walls, it gets pretty heavy. And it's extraordinarily hot. However, I've almost become sort of like a recidivist with this suit. It's like a guy, I hate to make the analogy, but it's almost like a guy who can't wait to go back to prison because he can't make it on the outside. Well, I've become so accustomed to this suit, like I don't know who I am, you know, without this suit. Somebody says, you want to go to dinner? And my social life is sort of really nebulous. It's nil in Dallas because I'm out of this suit for a second or for 2 hours and I want to carry these things around, you know. It's like I have this skin that I've lost and it disturbs me. And I become very happy in this suit. And everyone makes cuts a very wide path for me, and I don't talk to anyone as Robo. I just sort of sit and think my Robo thoughts.
Wonderful. Great, great guy.
Well, Ryan's very high on this thing now.
Very.
Yeah. Yeah, they really dig it. I think it will. From your mouth to God's ears, Howard. But, you know, there was something I was just going to say about... Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's see, where were we now?
I wanted to add something here about Paul and myself. You know, as we were working with this, and Joost Vacano, who is one of the world's greatest cinematographers, who did Das Boot, all those running shots, and you know, we had this suit that's $1 million or something, and we have this idea, my characterization that I've worked 5 months on, that they're not clear about. And then they have their vision of the film, and Joost has his vision of all these amazing shots. Well, at the beginning of this film, you see, due to some technical difficulties and some not mistakes, but some miscalculations in planning, we didn't get the suit at the right time to prepare the filming, to start the rehearsal, and all the departments were prepared. We hadn't all worked together at the same time. So here was this, you know, conglomeration of 5 entities that didn't really know each other. And it was an experiment. I mean, nobody's made a film like this. Nobody's gotten inside $1 million suit that's, you know, walked around like this, except my forerunner, as they say, my granddad, Gort, who was a character in The Day the Earth Stood Still, a wonderful film by Robert Wise. but that was just, a robot that came out and stood. But to play a man, the human. See, let me back up and tell you this. It's not like Bionic Man. It's not about like a computer inside of a guy who looks human. It's about a human trapped inside a computer. A functioning, walking, talking computer who's been lobotomized, amputized, and now it's just a machine. And then discovers a human being from within. You see the difference there. But the excitement was that Paul and Yost and myself and the various departments, we had to make this thing work and go where no man has feared to tread. I mean, there was no path here to follow. And that's what's been the thrill of it. We had to make and invent a lot of it up as we went along. And Paul is brilliant at inventing. And I couldn't think of a better guy to be with.
Now, Peter, today we're on location with you, and you were scheduled for a shoot sometime this afternoon, weren't you?
Yeah.
And yet, I guess things are running long or whatever.
The story of the movies.
Exactly, and I've been on lots of locations, and this is just the way it is. There's always a lot of time while you're waiting to go on. Now, for you as an actor, when you know, okay, I'm supposed to go shoot at 4 o'clock, but it's now 5:30, 6 o'clock, and you still haven't shot. What does that do for you as an actor? Because you're stage trained,
right?
And it's even more of an adjustment for you.
What I do is I play the trumpet. Lo and behold, I go back to the instrument that took me to North Texas State in the first place, which was trumpet, and why I play jazz. I go into Winnebago, I put in some tapes, and I play the trumpet. And I play and play and play. Or I pick up a guitar and play that. Or I write poetry. And those are the three things that get me by. I believe that it's very important what a film actor does when he has time. Some guys can just go do it. They say, we're ready for you, and you go get into your thing. I can't do that. I need time to prepare. I need time to put my head into this. Somebody comes and tells me you're going to have a 2-hour break. That's fine. I'll play the trumpet for a while, and then I put some time away to get my head back into this film. It's hard. So I'm not too, although I try to be, and I like to be, because I love crew people and I love the crew of a movie set. I can't be too sociable, I can't sit around and jaw because my head gets farther and farther away from the movie. And then when I say it's time to go, I've been talking about football for the past 2 hours, and I don't feel any more like doing this movie than The Man in the Moon. I feel like I just woke up again, to go to work, and I go, oh gee. However, if I sit in the Winnebago and play the trumpet, my thoughts are my own, my feelings are my own, and somebody says we're ready to go, I'm ready to go.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I wish we had heard you playing the trumpet. We could have taken some pictures of you playing the trumpet.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Can we do that? Or is it too late? Are you out of the trumpet playing now?
I think I'm out of the trumpet playing now.
Okay.
I played almost the day. I was thinking where the trumpet is, but I don't think it's anybody nearby. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Peter, it's wonderful to see you again.
Let me tell you something, how wonderful you look. And it's not just television. I think you're ageless. I'm sitting here staring across at you. And I remember when I went to North Texas and I watched your show, and I said, you look exactly the same. You look fantastic.
If you had your eyes tested lately. But I accept the compliment.
Please do.
Thank you,
I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You bet. Thank you, Bobby.
Didn't use, I would say.
Oh, okay.
So I still have those. But this is better to get to update everything now, because I had not, of course, seen the film. And it was fun to see the,
Yeah, it worked out pretty good. Nobody really liked that scene, but I loved it. When they were shooting it, they thought,
oh,
there's
really?
so many problems, and the
really?
truck's not going right, and it's too small, and endless problems, but you never know.
Yeah. You're in on him now, right? Okay. Did I say hello, Mike? I can't. I've been flying and going today. Okay. Well, Peter, it is nice to welcome you back to Dallas.
Thanks, Bobby.
AKA Detroit.
AKA, yes. Old Detroit, yes. As it will always be known to me.
Why didn't they shoot it in Detroit?
Because Detroit didn't really have the possibilities, I think, for locations. It didn't have a diversified enough location, and it didn't have quite the skyline that they had in mind for something in the future. They didn't know when they were going to set it in the future. It was the nebulous, sort of what I refer to as the exhaust pipe future, the industrial future. And Detroit looked a little too present day. And, lo and behold, here in Dallas, you've got golf ball buildings, parallelograms, things with white lights. I don't know what else you're building here, but it's like a whiz kid set here.
Well, anyway, it was fun to look at the film, and they kept hammering away Detroit and seeing all these familiar Dallas landmarks.
I think they actually shot by accident a sign, "Welcome to Dallas," in one of the things, and they had to cut it from the film about a month ago. I heard it was in there. Somebody said, the "Welcome to Dallas" sign is in there. I don't want to blow this movie for you, gang, but who knows?
Peter, from the early indications, what do you think this film is going to do for your career?
Well, hopefully it'll shift it from third gear to fourth. I can think that it would do nothing but good for it, not only in the commercial sense, but in the artistic sense, because it, as much as the film was an action-packed, futuristic cop thriller, it was also quite a challenge for my craft, and it was a very, very difficult role and a very satisfying one to do. So, in the commercial sense, I think it'll give it a real shot in the arm, and in the artistic sense, it was quite an expanse. So it can do nothing but good.
Was this a role other people were trying out for as well?
Yeah, and I didn't really try out for it. We had meetings to talk about certain things and whatever, and I've never been very good at auditioning. In the days when I had to audition, knock wood, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't read very well. I'm a little bit myopic. I can't get my head out of a script to look at you, and some people do it with great facility and ease, and I never could. But other people wanted this role. Yes, make no bones about that. A lot of other people wanted it.
One of the things I noticed as I watched the film is that Paul Verhoeven, and I assume that he had all the final say about the cast, did he not?
Yes.
Yeah. He likes angular faces and faces that he can play light and shadow off, or at least that was my perception. Did you thought about that?
I never thought about it, but in hindsight, I think you're right. I think he goes for some sort of angular. He's got a pretty angular face himself, truth be told. But I really think more than that. I know he's a man of really discerning eye for talent. And I think that he goes for somebody who's got, and not necessarily me, but particularly in the bad guys, somebody who's got something offbeat and not the norm, or he goes for more than an audition. He goes for some vivacity and personality. I haven't quite nailed it down yet. We all ask him, Paul, what are you interested in here? And he never tells. He says, I don't know. I just see people. So who knows? He's a wacko.
Well, he puts good stuff on the screen. Let's talk a little bit about Robocop. It's, I suppose, in a way, maybe there have been science fiction things that have kind of hinted at that, but this is the first real application of robotics in this kind of a story that I know about. Now, did you all ever sit around and just rap about whether or not this had practical applications for the near future?
Yeah, I think it's not too out of the realm of possibility. You mean as far as the future of law enforcement goes? Look, as much as inner city problems are a social problem, I think, and not really a criminal one, they got to be addressed somewhere on the social level. We do need a criminal remedy for them on the other end. We just can't, all take to the social blanket and say, gee whiz, it hurts. You got to go in and address some sort of police work to it. I do think that the future of law enforcement is in computers and in mechanized policemen. I don't think this is too far away. I mean, they made a movie about it 20, 30, 40 years ago, the day the Earth stood still, and they had this robot come up and said, "This is our policeman." And I don't know, it seems to be getting there. I know they're developing this stuff now. GM has got some sort of roboticized tank that's supposed to go in and clean up evil or whatever. So, good question. I think it's possible.
Is there any sort of clause in your contract to cover the possibility of a sequel?
No, which is good. They didn't nail me down to a sequel up front because I don't know if they saw the possibility of it. I was told upon first showing, one of the heads of Orion turned to the producer, John Davison, and said, "Have we got an option on Weller?" To which John Davison, with some sort of glee, said, "No, you don't." So that means they got to renegotiate. But I'll be kind with them if they so desire for me to appear as this lovely character again. I'll be kind.
And you'll just smile all the way to the bank.
I will, yeah, sure.
Let's talk about the suit, because when we talked last September, when you were here making the film, of course we were not permitted to see the suit. And so you had to talk about it in kind of veiled terms. But now that we're seeing the movie and we're seeing the suit, tell me what that was like. It looks like the most uncomfortable contraption ever.
It was close to it. It was not fun. Whereas Buckaroo Banzai was a ton of fun, this was no fun. It was 104 degrees, 105 degrees every day. You know how it is here in July. The suit was sometimes, it's going to New York, I can hear it. The suit was sometimes about 120 degrees inside. It took 5 months to prepare this, the movement of this part, the robotics, if you will, with a great, great man named Moni Yakin, who's an Israeli mime who's world-renowned and from France, actually, was raised in France, professor of movement at Juilliard. And he initially had me doing something that was very elegant and sleek and cat-like and sexy and groovy, but the suit was late because of technical difficulties, and it showed up here in Dallas 2 weeks into shooting. We had no time to rehearse, no time to plan anything, no time to test it. It was immense, it was behemoth, it was immobile, we were stuck, we didn't know what to do. The powers that be flew Moni down from New York, and after a couple of physical changes in the suit, small ones, but they couldn't do much with it, he said, "Okay, we'll throw out everything we learned, we'll adapt something new to it. We will take the cumbersomeness of this suit, we will play into this, we will make this thing, instead of groovy and serpentine and whatever, more grand and beast-like and awkward, and so what if Robo doesn't quite know what he's doing?" And I resisted it at first. I said, "Oh God, it's hard to turn loose of something that you had firmly implanted in your head for 5 months." But we watched Eisenstein's Ivan the Terrible. You know this film? Since this is the year of Eisenstein, and De Palma is using him, and we used him too about a year and a half ago, because in the middle of the film, I mean, you see Ivan, he's grandiose and huge and sort of bigger than life, and it's difficult to get a film actor to start doing this if you don't have any ground to jump off from. But Moni said, "Hey, look, everybody will let Ivan be like that because he's Ivan. You know, if you stick a 100mm lens away from his face and he turns and he's like, so, foolish as it sounds, it's wonderful for Ivan." He says, "Well, this will be wonderful for Robo, because nobody knows what Robo is going to be. You know, he's a robot. So let him be whatever we make it." So that's what we turned him into, something a little bit clumsy and not quite sure of what he was doing. You know, and he sees guns and he looks and doesn't quite know what's happening, rather than something Fred Astaire-like. So we all owe a big kiss on the cheek to Moni, because he walked right into this film on the verge of chaos and pulled it right out of the ashes.
How long did it take them to get you in the suit?
Initially, it took 10.5 hours. The first day it came in, 10.5 hours, from 6 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. Of course, you can't shoot a movie then, because you got an hour left to shoot. So as Moni and I worked on this movement over the next 3 or 4 days, manically and panically worked on this movement, these guys worked on what they could do with the suit, putting it on. We got it down to 8, we got it down to 6, we got it down to 4.5, then to 3.5, and finally we got it down essentially to 1. But then, the end of the movie, I take off the helmet and I have this, I must say, a very gifted piece of prosthetic over my face. That took 6.5 hours to put on for 21 days in a row. We had to do that. Not in a row. We had to take a break every 2 days because your skin breaks out. But you can't really cut the corners on that because it was so temperamental, and it had to be blended in so perfectly. And the time they had to take 6.5 hours was 6.5 hours, and they couldn't rush it. And that was a bit exhausting to sit in a chair for 6.5 hours.
It looks like it was pretty heavy, too, that prosthesis.
It was very heavy. The back of it was heavy. All the life support systems that were put on the back of the head tended to make your neck feel like a brick.
So at night when you would go home, what did you, jump in a jacuzzi or something?
I did, and I had a masseuse who was great in Pittsburgh where we shot all this stuff. She was great. And I was training for the New York Marathon at the same time. See, so I was doing an 18-hour day every day for about 4 months. You know, some people say that, gee, the President of the United States has got a schedule. Yeah, well, let me be Robocop for about 4 months, and I'll show him the schedule, bless his heart. But, I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning. As my assistant said, you know, we get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. This isn't an early call. This is a late call. This is the middle of the night. People are like, the crew is going to sleep. You know, they're waiting to get up at their 8:30 call. You know, we're getting up at 3, and then we got to go to work with them at 10 o'clock in the morning. So it was endless, but it was a challenge that was seemingly insurmountable. At the other end of it, I had the strongest sense of satisfaction from anything I'd ever done before.
Well, Peter, I have to tell you, you're just marvelous. I just thought it was a marvelous performance, and I was totally captivated and fascinated with the whole thing. Now, one thing I'm not so fascinated with, you feel it coming, it is so violent.
Yeah.
So violent, Peter.
Well, let me make a quick comment about that, and it's let me just maybe shift your look at it, or everyone's look at it. The apology, first of all, and it's a cheap note to compare it with anything else, but it's not near as violent, I don't think, as the umpteenth remake of all of these kiddie horror films, which come out in sequel after sequel that is served up flagellantly for everybody to dish in. And it's not as violent as a lot of other superhero movies, but it is, I submit, the particular scene that most people have a problem with is Murphy's death at the beginning of it. And it's important that that's done that way, and some people see the necessity of it and some people don't. I point up the necessity because to tell the story of Robo, to tell the story of the transformation of this machine back into a human being, or his story of loss and sadness, you can't tell that without telling this catharsis, or having a catharsis of Murphy. Catharsis meaning this purging of fear and sadness. You've got to go through in about 15 minutes this whole complete story of this cop named Murphy. And you just can't kill him. You have to delineate really, really, really evil guys. As Kurosawa said, you know, the bad guys got to be pound for pound as bad as the good guys are good. If they're not, there's no fight. Secondly, when you take Murphy through this, you set him up and you hold the audience subliminally on this brink of what's going to happen to him, not unlike the Deer Hunter where you're waiting and waiting. And that's done for the purpose of letting you have this release when he's killed. I mean, letting you feel sad and sorry for him and something terrible and cruel has happened to him, rather than just having him walk in and shoot him. Because in that way, you will never, never forget the horror that happened to this human being when you see the robot. And mind you, the rest of the violence, you never see a graphic piece of violence again. If somebody gets killed, you see some blood thrown against the wall, but you never see a bullet go in the head or the arm go flying through the air, or the nonsense that goes on and on ad infinitum. It's never gratuitous. But that Murphy scene, they debated and debated about it, and they decided that it had to be there if anybody was going to go hooray Robo. Matter of fact, at one point it was worse. You know, we got an X because of that one scene, and they lifted a couple things out of it. So in order for people to root for Robo, for Robocop to have his moment of triumph, of vengeance, but also of dignity, and of his return to humanity, you must delineate the horror of what happened to Murphy, and there wasn't any way out of it. And the powers that be talked it over and talked it over, and there it ends. You know, it ends up as a violent scene. But one that I say again, I don't think Bobby is gratuitous or self-serving or just there for the entertainment or so that preteens, you know, can sneak into the theater and go, wow, isn't that groovy? It's violent, but it's cruel and it's sad. You know, it's a terrible thing. It's not a heroic thing.
Well, I think the movie will be a tremendous hit. I really do.
From your mouth to God's ears, and not from this movie.
I don't know about little kids seeing it.
I don't think little kids should see it at all. I don't think.
And that's kind of a shame because I think that when they see the pictures and all, they will be just driving their parents crazy. I want to go to Robocop, you know, and they'll see the TV ads and everything. But you wouldn't take a little kid, huh?
No, I would not. I would not take a preteen to it. And I would take 15-year-olds, but only in the company of an adult. I think it's rated well. It's rated in R. It's not. There's not blatant anything. It's one scene that the ratings people had a problem with. Orion also had a choice, you know, to make one available for preteens or not. Paul Verhoeven wanted to tell an adult comic book story, so he could have the adults in there with all the little potpourri of social significance that he wanted to make. So they had to make that choice, and so be it.
Well, it's great.
But those preteens will grow up.
And eventually they'll see it.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it'll be around a long time. I think it's a milestone, really, in many ways, Peter. I do.
Thank you very much.
And your performance again is just marvelous.
I appreciate it, Marty. Thank you.
Good to talk with you.
It's good to talk to you always.
Excuse me. I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.
Robocop opened to generally positive reviews and began a wide North American release on July 17, 1987. During its opening weekend, the film earned $8 million from 1,500 theaters, an average of $5,000 per theater.
Robocop is a wonderfully funny, inventive, and agreeably violent piece of science fiction, and I can't remember the last time I put all those adjectives together, because as a rule, I think most science fiction movies are sort of stupid with their futures that always look like the present, only worse. Well, Robocop is set in futuristic Detroit, and it doesn't look very good, but the story is a howl and action-filled at the same time. It's the story of a private company contracted to build a mechanical cop because so many of the real cops are being killed each day in Detroit. Unfortunately, the initial boardroom test of the mechanical cop is less than successful.
Use your gun in a threatening manner.
Well, as they said in Some Like It Hot, nobody's perfect. A possible replacement to get the cop killers is a half-man, half-machine called Robocop. His story is sort of sad. He's really a police officer who's been maimed and put back together as a machine. Nancy Allen plays Robocop's old partner. She was with him when he was wounded, and in this scene, she helps him get his targeting system corrected after he's been in a fight.
Can I help you? That's dead on.
Thank you.
That's Peter Weller as Robocop, the star of Buckaroo Banzai. He's dead on. The whole movie is dead on, both as a thriller and as an unexpected comedy. A lot of people deserve credit for this film. Foremost, I guess, is the highly regarded Dutch director Paul Verhoeven, who has previously made some highbrow films like Spetters, Soldier of Orange, and The Fourth Man. Maybe his serious-mindedness helped anchor what could have been a very silly movie into some area of convincing emotion. And Peter Weller and Nancy Allen, plus the whole crew of business executives we saw in that first scene and the bad guys in this film, are just fine. Robocop is quite violent, to be sure, but it is so well made that I think it ranks with the quality of the Mad Max movies, which were also violent and well made. In fact, I like this better than the Mad Max movies.
Well, you're lumping all the Mad Max movies together, and I like them better than you did, so I like them better than I like this. But I did like this.
This is good.
This is a fun movie, and one of the strange things about it, we saw it in that very first scene of the machine that goes out of control, is there was something intrinsically funny about any sort of a machine or even a trained animal that is only following instructions and does so in the face of logic that always tickles me whenever I see it. And that scene, tragic as it is for the poor guy who picks up the gun, had me howling in the theater, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything you liked about it, including the nice, tough relationship there with Nancy Allen, who plays a little different character this time. She's convincing as a cop, and Weller, overcomes the handicap of having to play half of the movie inside all of that armor.
I mean, you do have a little bit of The Fly in here with the love relationship with the guy who's half creature and half man. And a lot of technology in this film, which, you know, I thought I've said before, I'm tired of it with Predator and Arnold Schwarzenegger, but with this director, Verhoeven, it's good.
But on now to Robocop, a piece of comic book science fiction that hovers on the edge of being admirable but finally self-destructs because of its own excesses. The setting is Detroit sometime in the near future. Society is breaking down. Was there ever a time in the movies when society wasn't breaking down? However, Detroit is run by three main organizations, a bunch of evil bad guys, the cops, and a multinational conglomerate that has a contract to run the city police force.
Fellow executives, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the future.
Well, that's amusing stuff, and against this background, Peter Weller plays a cop, almost as tough a cop as his partner Nancy Allen, who eats a couple of lightly boiled bad guys for breakfast every morning. One day, Mr. Weller falls foul of the flakiest gang of nutters in town, a mob led by Kurtwood Smith, and just for fun, they shoot off both his arms and one leg, and by way of an encore, put a bullet through his forehead. This obviously leaves him with a nasty headache, and no doubt a general feeling of malaise, but astonishingly, he is still alive. And so Miguel Ferrer, whiz-kid scientist with the multinational conglomerate, takes whatever is left of him and turns him into a cyborg, half man, half machine, otherwise known as Robocop. And that's when the mayhem really starts, and when a half-baked subplot about a behind-the-scenes struggle for power at the conglomerate involving Ronnie Cox and Dan Herlihy is introduced. Now, I did say that this was almost admirable, though you probably might not think so from that rundown. But the effects are first-rate, and there are some very funny gags, mostly involving a couple of TV newscasters who keep turning up wearing big, toothy grins to announce the most appalling disasters, such as a mishap in the Star Wars program that has totally wiped out Santa Barbara. All this is fine, and so is the direction by the Dutchman Paul Verhoeven, whose first American film this is. But there's a sickness at the heart of the picture, and inevitably it involves the violence, which goes beyond cruelty and even viciousness, and plunges into sadism. Now, what we've shown, take my word for it, is pretty mild stuff, but most of the jokes are about different ways to kill and maim people. If you think that's funny, then I'm sure you'll like Robocop. If you don't, you may agree with me that for all its high promise and for all the imagination and skill and wit that went into it, it's ultimately a rather distasteful picture which can't possibly do much good, except for the bank balances of those who made it.
I'd buy that for $1.
From Orion Home Video, 1991, the country is overrun by crime. The people need a hero, Robocop. He died in the war against crime and was reborn to win it.
Looking for me?
The theatrical box office blockbuster is now a home video sensation. Robocop. Get it on video cassette.
Robocop was released on VHS in the USA on January 28, 1988, and had an estimated $24 million in sales. It was released for rental in the UK on 11th of November 1988 by Virgin Video.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Software presents Robocop, part man, part machine. You've seen the smash movie, played the all-action coin-op, now experience the thrills on your home computer. As Robocop, you blast through the many levels of the underworld in the pursuit of justice. Scrolling shoot-'em-up action. You've got to be tough, ruthless, and lethal. You've got to be Robocop.
A side-scroller of the same name was released for arcades in 1988, and was ported to other platforms such as the ZX Spectrum and Game Boy.
Drop it! Drop it! Thank you for your cooperation.
Bitches leave.